Hi, today is Monday, June 23rd, 2025. This is my second reading for the day. I always try to read an article or articles of 30 minutes length to read. So this is second one. We are going to learn more about Palantir technologies. This article is from Yahoo Finance, and the title is Palantir Technologies a once-in-a-generation AI stock, right? I'm trying to read this article to practice English, to study English, right? And the key points, Palantir has built a strong business with government and commercial ties. Growth will need to accelerate to justify the stock price. 10 stocks we like better than Palantir Technologies. That's good. Palantir Technologies, NASDAQ PLTR, has been one of the hottest AI stocks over the past year and a half. Since the start of 2024, it's up over 700% and has risen over 80% in 2025 alone. I would not buy this stock then. Those are incredible returns in a short time frame, but many investors are convinced that Palantir can go higher from here. Really? Then I should buy the stock. If it does, Palantir could be marked as once in a generation AI stock. Once in a generation, right? That's a good expression. Once in a generation AI stock. Once in a generation. So, does Palantir fit the criteria to become a once in a generation stock, or is something else happening here? Palantir's business has rapidly expanded over the past year. Palantir's business is split into two primary units, government and commercial. Palantir originally started as a software intended for government use and saw tremendous success in this field. However, use cases were developed for commercial products, and Palantir has also successfully expanded into that world. High-yield savings offer. Sophie Current Bank. Its software is all about data analytics and giving its users actionable insights based on its information flows. This is all powered by AI and has transformed how some businesses operate. Palantir has seen success in its financials, with impressive growth accelerating quarter after quarter. In Q1, Palantir's U.S. commercial revenue rose 71% year over year to $255 million, right? Revenue rose 71% year over year to $255 million. And U.S. government revenue rose 45% year over year to $373 million. However, overall commercial growth was 33% to $397 million. This clearly indicates that other areas of the world, namely Europe, aren't embracing AI as much as the US is. However, that could quickly change as several positive developments have been rolling out AI in Europe over the past few weeks. That could quickly change, right? As several positive developments have been rolling out AI in Europe over the past few weeks. Should Europe embracing? Yeah. Europe, the other areas of the world aren't embracing AI as much as US is. Okay, I'll just remember the sentence, memorize. Other areas of the world, namely Europe, aren't embracing AI as much as US is. And also Korea, right? Korean government doesn't embrace AI that much, even though they try to invest huge in the AI sector. Should Europe more widely adopt AI that could boost Palantir's commercial sales to even higher levels. Overall, government revenue rose 45% year over year to $487 billion. So governments around the globe are adopting AI just as fast as the US government is. Palantir's total year-over-year growth was an impressive 39%, and management gave guidance for a 38% growth rate in Q2. However, that figure should be taken with a grain of salt, as management consistently beats its own expectations. That's good. That figure should be taken with a grain of salt, as management consistently beats its own expectations. While this all sounds impressive, investors should be alarmed by Palantir's growth in conjunction with its valuation. Palantir's stock comes with a hefty price tag. As mentioned above, Palantir's revenue rose 39% year over year in Q1, yet the stock is up over 700% since the start of 2024. That indicates that the stock far exceeds actual business growth, which shows up in Palantir's valuation. Palantir has risen from a stock that traded in the 10 to 20 times sales range, normal for software company, to 110 times sales, a level that few stocks ever trade at. That's because the expectations are unbelievably high at these levels, and it's unlikely that Palantir will be able to live up to them. To illustrate, and it's unlikely that Palantir will be able to live up to them, right? That's because the expectations are unbelievably high at these levels. To illustrate, let's make a few assumptions. Palantir's revenue growth accelerates to 50%, maintaining that level for 5 years. Palantir's profit margins reach industry-leading 30%. Palantir's share count doesn't rise, a terrible assumption. Its share count is up 7% year over, right? Share count, what is a share count? Share value, right? Number of shares on the market. Palantir's share count doesn't rise, a terrible assumption. It's terrible because its share count is up 7% year over year. Should all these three occur, Palantir's revenue and profits will rise from $3.12 billion and $571 million, respectively, to $23.7 billion and $7.1 billion. If it did that, Palantir would undoubtedly be a once-in-a-generation company. However, at today's current market cap and 5 years from now's profits, Palantir's stock would trade at 46 times earnings, which is still quite expensive. For reference, NVIDIA, NASDAQ, NVDA grew revenue at a 69% pace in Q1 and trades for 46 times earnings right now. This tells me that there's almost no upside left in Palantir stock besides what's driven by hype. What's driven by hype. What's driven by hype. This tells me that's good expression, right? This tells me that there's almost no upside left in Palantir's stock besides what's driven by hype. This tells me that there's almost no upside left in Palantir's stock besides what's driven by hype. Palantir's stock has run up too far too fast and is now in a precarious situation. While Palantir could be a once-in-a-generation company, its business is fantastic. The stock is incredibly overvalued. It could be prone to a drastic sell-off if Palantir has a slip-up in execution, right? It could be prone to a drastic sell-off if Palantir has a slip-up in execution. If Palantir has a slip-up in execution. It could be prone to a drastic sell-off if Palantir has a slip-up in execution. Should you invest $1,000 in Palantir Technologies right now? Before you buy stock in Palantir Technologies, consider this. The Motley Fool Stock Advisor Analyst team just identified what they believe are the 10 best stocks for investors to buy now, and Palantir Technologies wasn't one of them. The 10 stocks that made the cut could produce monster returns in the coming years. They made the cut, right? 10 stocks, right? The 10 stocks that made the cut could produce monster returns in the coming years. The 10 stocks that made the cut could produce monster returns in the coming years. The 10 stocks that made the cut could produce monster returns in the coming years. Yeah, I'll check out the 10 stocks later. Stock advisor returns as of June 9th, 2025. Consider when Netflix made this list on December 17th, 2004. If you invested $1,000 at the time of our recommendation, you would come $659,171. What? Or when NVIDIA made the list on April 15th, 2005, if you invested $1,000 at the time of your recommendation, you would have $891,722. Now, it's worth noting Stock Advisor's total average return is 995%, a market-crushing outperformance compared to 172% for the S&P 500. Don't miss out on the latest top 10 list available when you join Stock Advisor. Wow. Cathan Drury has positions in NVIDIA. The Motley Fool has positions in and recommendations NVIDIA and Palantir Technologies. The Motley Fool has a disclosure policy. Is Palantir Technologies a once-in-a-generation AI stock? Was originally published by the Motley Fool. Okay, so I guess I have to pay, right? 10 stocks. I accept. Again. Get access to the Motley Fool's top 10 stock picks. So I have to pay, right? What are the 10 stocks? Stock reports. Amazon, Netflix, Walt Disney, Nvidia. Okay, I'll find out those 10 stocks in other way, right? So Palantir stocks are too much overvalued, right? I would wait. Or if you do have money, you can just buy $1,000 worth of Palantir stock. It could be just hype. It's driven by hype, right? If they have a slip up in execution, there could be a huge sell-off of the stock. Once in a generation stock, right? Once in a generation stock. So before I go, I would like to go over what I've saved to memorize. The 10 stocks that made the cut. The 10 stocks that made the cut could generate tremendous monster returns in the coming years. The 10 stocks that made the cut could produce monster returns in coming years. This tells me that there's almost no upside left in Palantir's stock because what's driven by hype. It could be prone to a drastic sell-off. It could be prone to a drastic sell-off if Palantir has slip up in execution. It could be prone to a drastic sell-off if Palantir has a slip up in execution. This tells me that there's almost no upside left in Palantir stock besides what's driven by hype. That figure should be taken with a grain of salt, as management consistently beats its own expectations. That figure should be taken with a grain of salt, as management consistently beats its own expectations. Other areas of the world, namely Europe, aren't embracing as much as the US is. Other areas of the world, namely Europe, aren't embracing AI as much as the US is. Once in a generation AI stock. Well, that's it. Let me go over this. The 10 stocks that made the cut could produce monster returns in the coming years. This tells me there's no upside left in Palantir's stock because what's driven by hype. It could be prone to a drastic sell-off if Palantir has a slip up in execution, right? This tells me that there's almost no upside, right? That figure should be taken with a grain of salt, as management consistently beats its own expectations. Other areas of the world, namely Europe, aren't embracing AI as much as the US is. Once in a generation AI stock. Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful Tuesday.